Across America, the music that built jazz, blues, and rock was not born in studios or written into contracts. It emerged in Black churches, juke joints, and crowded rooms after hard days' work. While you probably know the names who made millions from these sounds, almost nobody asked how Black creativity was boxed in as race music and blocked from the mainstream. The truth about how these raw, original voices were contained and then quietly replaced paints a picture far bigger than stolen songs or missing credit. How did these rhythms, born from scarcity and soul, become a fortune for people who did not create them? To answer that, we have to go back to where the beat began. Inside a packed church on a Sunday morning, the sound starts with a single voice, rough, untrained, but carrying every ounce of hope and struggle in the room. Feet stomp against old wooden floors, hands clap in time, and the music grows layer by layer. There is no sheet music, no conductor, just a chorus of neighbors who know every word by heart. In these spaces, the line between performer and audience blurs. One person hums a new melody, another answers with a harmony, and suddenly a song takes shape that has never been written down. After sunset, the scene shifts to a juke joint, walls sweating, bodies pressed close, laughter and stories floating above the pulse of a battered guitar. The music here is built on improvisation. Someone borrows a riff from a gospel hymn, stretches it into something raw, then hands it off to the next musician. Instruments are shared, and so are the songs. Ideas pass from ear to ear, changing with every retelling. No one signs a contract or claims ownership. The music belongs to whoever needs it most that night. Hard times push people together in these rooms, but the sound that comes out is anything but defeated. Every note is a record of survival, shaped by hands that worked all day and voices that refused to be quiet. This is where the roots of blues jazz and rock dig deep, far from the spotlight, in rooms where music is made to be felt, not just heard. The music that took root in Black communities did not just face social barriers. It ran into a wall built by the industry itself. Early on, record labels, radio stations, and advertisers stamped a label on this new sound, calling it race music. That single phrase did more than describe a style. It sorted the music into a separate category, boxed it off from the mainstream, and kept it out of reach for most of the country. Record companies set up different sales channels, pressing records for Black audiences and shipping them to small shops. While white neighborhoods rarely saw these releases, radio followed the same pattern. A handful of stations like WDIA in Memphis and WERD in Atlanta carved out space for Black musicians, but their signals only carried so far. National networks and big city stations, the ones with the power to create stars, stuck to pop country and the polished sounds advertisers believed white listeners wanted. The industry logic was simple. Race music was for Black listeners, pop was for everyone else. That thinking shaped how records were promoted, where they were sold, and who got airtime. Even as the sound grew more popular, the label kept it contained. The system did not just ignore Black music, it built fences around it, making sure the sound stayed local while the profits and fame waited on the other side. Big Mama Thornton walked into the studio in Houston in August 1952, ready to record a song written just for her. She was paid $500 by Peacock Records for laying down Hound Dog, a track that would hit #1 on the R&B charts the next year and stay there for 7 weeks. Her voice on that recording was pure fire, rough and fearless, carrying every ounce of heartbreak and swagger the song demanded. But when the session ended and the money changed hands, that was the last real payday she saw from it. The contract did not include royalties, publishing, or any piece of the future. 4 years later, Elvis Presley recorded his own version for RCA. His Hound Dog shot to #1 on the pop charts, sold over 10 million copies, and made him a household name. The song brought him television spots, national tours, and a fortune. Thornton's name faded from the story, even though her sound, kept echoing everywhere money was being made. Little Richard's records didn't just sound different, they hit the airwaves like a bolt of lightning. When Tutti Frutti landed in 1955, his wild piano, howling vocals, and unfiltered energy pushed it to #2 on the R&B charts. But the pop charts told another story. His version stalled. Pat Boone's cover, a version stripped of grit and delivered in a steady croon, climbed to #12 on the Billboard pop chart. Boone's Long Tall Sally reached #8, outselling the original on stations that would not play Little Richard's voice. This was not about talent or popularity. It was about which version radio programmers and advertisers felt safe promoting to white audiences. R&B radio played the real thing, but national pop stations went with the Sanitized cover. The result was clear. Little Richard wrote the hits, but Pat Boone cashed in. The same music, divided by who got heard and who got paid, set the rules for who would be remembered. Chuck Berry stood on stage at Chess Records in Chicago, guitar slung low, playing riffs that would echo far beyond the South Side. His sharp driving style, part blues, part country, all attitude, became the foundation for a new kind of rock and roll. Across the Atlantic, young musicians studied Berry's records, copying every lick and chord change. The Rolling Stones named themselves after Muddy Waters' 1950 track Rolling Stone, tracing their identity straight back to the Delta. The Beatles built early hits around the same guitar lines Berry had invented, turning his sound into a global phenomenon. But while British bands filled stadiums and top charts, the originators watched their own innovations become someone else's calling card. Berry's riffs and Waters' raw slide guitar left fingerprints on nearly every major act of the 1960s, yet their names faded from the headlines as their music became a worldwide commodity. The sound traveled, but ownership rarely followed. Contracts decided who got paid and who disappeared. For most Black artists, the fine print was a trap. Labels handed out work-for-hire agreements, which meant the company, not the musician, owned the song, the recording, and every dollar that came after. Even if a record became a hit, the original artist saw little beyond a one-time fee. Publishing rights, which control who profits when a song is played or covered, were often signed away for pennies or buried under complicated legal language. Studio time, promotion, and travel costs were deducted from royalties before the artist saw a cent, if they saw anything at all. Willie Dixon, one of the great blues songwriters, spent decades watching his work fuel the rise of rock giants. Only in 1985 did he win retroactive credit in a settlement from Led Zeppelin for Whole Lotta Love, which borrowed heavily from his earlier song, You Need Love. By then, Zeppelin had already made millions. The paperwork decided the winners long before the music ever hit the airwaves. National radio and television networks held the keys to mass exposure, but those doors only opened for a select few. The three major radio networks, NBC, CBS, and ABC, controlled the airwaves through coast-to-coast affiliates, reaching millions of households every night. Their playlists and programming decisions were shaped as much by advertisers as by audience demand. Sponsors, wary of controversy and eager to protect their brands, pressured stations to stick with familiar faces and sounds, keeping Black artists off the most lucrative slots. Even as Black musicians shaped the sound of the era, their records were rarely heard outside regional or specialty stations. Meanwhile, white performers with label backing could count on national promotion, primetime TV spots, and the full force of network distribution. Payola, under the table payments to DJs, became a tool for labels to push their chosen hits. But the biggest rewards went to those already in the right rooms. Charts were split, audiences divided, and the system kept the spotlight fixed on those with access, not those with originality. The gatekeepers decided who became a household name and who remained a footnote. Today, more than 90% of U.S. music publishing is still controlled by a handful of corporations. As streaming reshapes the industry, ownership and erasure remain real. The sound will always be heard. The question is, who will finally be seen? Let your voice be part of that answer below.